It's 4 p.m. on a Saturday here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Hyun-kyung. It's been 79 hours since our nearly 7,000-ton Sewol ferry took to the waters. With more than 470 people on board, more than 270 of them still remaining missing at this time. We continue with our special coverage on the latest from the Sewol-ho ferry sinking off Korea's southwestern coast. More than 3 days have passed since search and rescue operations began after the ferry capsized early Wednesday morning Korea time. Well, conflicting numbers have been released by the government regarding the total number of passengers aboard, as well as the number of passengers rescued and unaccounted for. Now, as of now, 29 passengers have officially been confirmed dead and 273 remain missing out of 476 passengers and crew. For the latest on the sunken ferry and other updates, ARIRANG's Hyun-kyung is standing by at the news center. Hyun-kyung, 3 more bodies have reportedly been spotted in the cabin. Now, divers have attempted to break through the window inside the sunken ferry, but they obviously failed, right?
Yes, that's correct. And unfortunately, that is the case. We've been getting reports since this Saturday morning that divers got a glimpse of 3 bodies inside the 4th floor of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. However, the divers were and still are unable to break through the window. Now, the rescue operation team plans to alternate a total of 652 divers and send them to try and get inside the ferry. They say they will make as many as 40 dives today, and hopefully some divers will have successfully entered the cabin and make progress in the search and rescue operations. Now, a total of 176 vessels and 28 aircraft have been dispatched to the site for the rescue operations today. And as for the passenger count, the government once again corrected their official numbers late Friday, and Prime Minister Chung Won this morning did make an apology, but it fueled anger not only among the family members who are anxiously waiting for their loved ones to be found and safely returned, but also among the general public as well. 2 people on the list of passengers were found not to have boarded the ferry, while 3 people that were not on the list got aboard. So that adds 1 more person to the total number of passengers. As of now, the government believes 476 passengers were on the ferry. The number of rescued passengers has been reduced to 174, down 5 from the previous figure. The explanation for this was that some of the names and identities had overlapped while multiple rescue operation parties were trying to gather information.
Right, Hyun-kyung, we have been getting conflicting reports from the government since day 1 of this accident, and that obviously is not helping quell the concerns and worries of the families and the entire nation. Now, Hyun-kyung, we are also getting reports that the authorities have started taking DNA samples from families of those still missing.
Yes, the samples are being collected in advance so that officials can use them when needed. For example, to match against bodies that have been and may be retrieved from the sunken ferry. Authorities are estimating that it will take about 2 days to sequence the DNAs of some 300 family members. Kwon-young?
All right, Hyun-kyung, stay put there. We will check back in with you in a little bit for other updates during this newscast. But now let's head over to Paengmok Harbor in Chindo. As you heard, search and rescue divers will try to break into the vessel to retrieve the bodies they spotted earlier this morning, and of course survivors too. It's a race against time with bad weather in the forecast for later this afternoon. ARIRANG's Yoo Lee-an joins us live from Paengmok Harbor nearby the site of the capsized ferry. Lee-an, what's new with the search and rescue operations?
Hi, Kwon-young. I'm here at the Paengmok Harbor, which is about 10 kilometers from the site of the accident. Unfortunately, all rescue operations have come to a halt as of now due to the very bad weather here. There have been high tides, but fortunately, they will all resume at around 5 p.m. local time. That is when the tides are expected to be at its calmest. No tides going in or going out. Now, that's also when a team of 8 to 10 divers, 40 times a total will, one by one, go into the waters to continue their search and rescue operations, and also try to retrieve the 3 bodies mentioned earlier in the morning to try to break through the windows once again and just retrieve those bodies. Also, rescue team is expected to install what's called a jack-up barge, which is a small platform for divers to use as a base whenever they're getting off into the water. Hyun-kyung?
Now, Leon, how is the weather looking down there right now? I mean, I also hear there is an oil spill that's hindering rescue efforts.
Like I said earlier, the weather conditions isn't really looking so good. There's strong winds. They're expected to go up. The speed is expected to go up as high as 12 kilometers per hour. And tides are also going to be high as 2 meters. Now, like you said, there has been an oil spill from the Sewol-ho ferry. Now, there is an oil bed of 1 kilometer in diameter surrounding the site of the accident. And the overpowering smell of the oil is giving a hard time for the rescuers here, and also because of the strong tides, it's difficult for them to install oil fence system to contain the oil from expanding even more. Now there are 200,000 tons of oil reportedly remaining in the vessel, and this day is truly turning out to be a rough day for the rescuers here, who have to both try to contain the oil spill and also continue their efforts into this rescue and search. Hyun-kyung?
Right. Difficult times as they are faced with dual tasks. Thank you, Leon, for the report. That was our Yudian reporting live from Pengmok Harbor, the focal point of this search and rescue operations. Let's now try getting a better sense of the situation down in Jindo, including the terrain the rescue teams are dealing with there off Korea's southwestern coast, and what more really could be done to speed up search and rescue operation. For that, Captain John Noble joins us live on the line. He is the director of UK-based Constellation Marine Services. Captain John Noble, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with the search and rescue operations currently underway here in Korea. What is your assessment of the quality and scale of what we're seeing today?
Well, the rescue operation, I fear, is now one of recovery. And I have to say that the currents will be very strong because it's coming up to spring tides and the wind is not helping. And I understand there is an oil slick round the ferry. So all this is going against the operation.
Right. It's been over 79 hours now since the accident, and you described this effort as a recovery effort, but of course here in Korea we would still like to believe that it is a search and rescue operation. How likely is it that we will find survivors in what's called air pockets that we've been talking about for the past few days? What kind of measures should the rescue team do to speed up the process and find survivors perhaps?
Well, to try and rescue anyone who's trapped in an air pocket is going to be extremely difficult. The problem the divers have, not just the currents, is once they get inside the ship, it is absolutely pitch black. And even with powerful torches, their visibility is still very low. And these are people who probably do not know the detailed layout of the ship. So it is an extremely difficult operation for any divers, but even for experienced divers. So one has to commend their efforts. But I personally think it's going to be very difficult.
A very difficult task indeed. Korean authorities have said they will have 8 to 10 divers go underwater to try to enter the sunken vessel for a total of 40 times today. Now, Captain Noble, how will they carry out this process, and what can the divers do when they do go underwater?
Well, once they get underwater and they can reach the entrance to the sunken vessel, they will then probably listen to hear if they can hear any noises of people trapped in air pockets banging, and they will probably bang the hull. The reason they would do this is to try and give them an idea of the location of any people still alive and trapped in the ship. Once they have that, that will cut down any time they may have to get to the appropriate place. But please, it is terribly difficult for the divers, and these are young men doing a good job, and it's just so difficult for everybody.
A very difficult time for everyone here in this country and all over the world who are watching Korea with hopes and prayers. All right, Captain John Noble, Director of UK-based Constellation Marine Services, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Now moving on, as officials in Korea continue their investigation into what caused the capsizing of this Sewol-ho ferry, a similar incident that occurred in Japan 4 years ago is coming to light. Experts say similarities in the two ships could provide clues to solving the mystery. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
The capsizing of Japanese ferry Ariake is gaining attention more than 4 years after the incident due to its similarities with Korea's Sewol-ho ferry. The 7,000-ton vessel was stranded near Japan's Mie Prefecture on November 13, 2009, after a strong current slammed into the ship's left, forcing 2,400 tons worth of cargo to shift to one side. The vessel lost its restoring force and, as a result, capsized. Fortunately, the ship was carried to the nearest shore by tide, and all 29 passengers and crew members on board were safely rescued. The Ariake and Korea's Sewol-ho ferry resemble each other in many ways. The Ariake was operated by Marue Ferry, the company that sold the Sewol-ho ferry to Korea. The two ships were also built by the same builder, the Japanese ship 1 year after the Sewol-ho ferry was completed in 1995. The two weighed almost the same and traveled at similar speeds. Experts say the ships are nearly identical in capacity and operation methods, and the lead-up to their capsizing is much the same. The similarities are fueling hope of clues into what caused the Sewol-ho ferry to list and sink. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
Distraught families of those on board the Sewol-ho ferry have been camping out at an auditorium nearby the accident site in Jindo, waiting in agony for news that their kids have returned safe and sound. Information on rescue efforts have been readily available, but the mood, of course, is filled with sorrow, frustration, and anger. Let's connect live to our Kwon So-ah from the auditorium. So-ah, what's the situation there like?
Kanyang, as I reported earlier before, there was a big row here at the Jindo Indoor Auditorium between authorities and the families of the missing. Now, it has calmed down a lot since then. However, we still hear sounds of frustration from time to time. Now, it all began with a video clip that showed rescue operations underwater, which in the eyes of the families was useless. Now, the clip was shown a bit before 12 on a wide screen inside the gymnasium. The clip showed search and rescue operations beneath the water conducted by divers with underwater cameras attached to their helmets early this Saturday. Authorities said that the visibility was on the good side this morning, but still it was difficult to make out what exactly was happening without any extra details given, which explains how bad the tidal and weather conditions usually are. Now, the process of the operations was thoroughly explained to the families. The divers went as deep as 20 meters below the surface using a rope and did their search on the 3rd and 4th floors corridor, but when the clip ended, it showed no results.
So I can understand that families of the missing are just frustrated and angry at the pace of this search.
That's right, Kanyang, and that's why I heard parents shouting, what's the case of showing us this video clip if it doesn't show any productive results and if it can't bring back our children? And they also raised questions about international equipment when officials said that with the current marine police and private organizations' equipment, there is a limited time the divers can actively conduct searches. They can only take oxygen with them that lasts for around 20 minutes. Now, there was also word about a camcorder that has allegedly filmed bodies in the water, but that has not been confirmed. Now, as time passes, it's getting harder for the families here to accept the fact that the chance is getting lower that they will see their loved ones alive again, but they are still clinging on to the last bit of hope as rescue operations continue. Back to you, Kanya.
Right. I can't even begin to imagine the harrowing times that these distraught families are going through. Thank you, Sewol-ho. That was our Kwon Soo-ha reporting live from the Jindo Indoor Auditorium, where the families of those missing have been camping out for the past few days. Now, once bodies are recovered, or better yet, if survivors are found, they will be brought to the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital, located in Korea's southern Jeollanam-do province. We have our correspondent standing by. Ji Myung-gil is at the hospital. Myung-gil, fill us in.
Yes, Kanyang, it has been 78 hours since the accident, and it is unfortunate that the weather conditions are deteriorating at sea. And meanwhile, the hospital has not received any bodies or survivors as of yet. Currently, there are 11 survivors that are undergoing treatment, and they're known to be suffering from spinal diseases, spinal injuries, or minor bruises. Of the 19 survivors that arrived at the hospital, 8 have been discharged. The hospital is providing psychiatric therapy for survivors who are being treated. A medical helicopter is also on standby along with 2 medics so that the hospital can efficiently transport survivors or bodies.
Myung-gil, with each passing second, minute, and hour, hopes for finding survivors are diminishing. However, I'm sure the hospital is ready for the arrival of rescuers, right?
Yes, the hospital has prepared 50 beds for late-coming survivors, and also there are 20 nurses and doctors that will take shifts to look after the patients over day and night. Several funeral rooms have been prepared for families that may have lost their loved ones through this, one of the worst maritime disasters in Korea's history. A task force team is also on standby to identify the bodies as quickly as possible.
I understand that some of the families of the missing are also standing by at the Mokpo Hospital, hoping to greet their loved ones alive. How are they taking this excruciating wait?
Well, the families here are actually anxiously waiting for news of their loved ones. And as the search operations are not doing very well, a lot of the families were actually in despair. Most families spent their nights in the waiting rooms without much sleep. Although rescue efforts have continued throughout the night, it doesn't seem as though much progress has been made. Back to you, Kanyang.
And we will be hoping for good news on that front so that more survivors will be going to that Mokpo Hanguk Hospital. That was Ji Myung-gil reporting live from the hospital. As Myung-gil just told us, different hospitals throughout the country are receiving bodies that have been recovered or waiting for those rescued. And Ansan Hospital in Gyeonggi-do province is no exception. Our Shin Se-min reports or joins us live from the Korea University Ansan Hospital. Semi, what can you tell us?
Yes, Kanyang, the situation here may not be as rapidly changing as other areas here in the peninsula currently, but here, as the day progresses, the number of the people visiting the hospital has been growing rapidly. A lot of people ranging from relatives, friends, religious groups. I mentioned friends again. Friends not only from Danon High School, but also from other high schools are visiting to pay their tribute and mourn with the families. A total of 22 people have arrived here at Ansan, with 6 of the bodies lying here at the hospital, Korea University University Ansan Hospital, and the first coffin has been borne out at a nearby funeral hall this morning at around 9 o'clock, and it was of a teacher who lost her life after helping students evacuate the now sunken ferry. Although it wasn't at this specific location here, hundreds of mourners were on site to pay their respects. Now at around 4 this morning, the body of the vice principal of Tanwon High School, who escaped the ship but died Friday in an apparent suicide, arrived at nearby Taeil Funeral Hall here in Ansan, along with another female high school student who died in a disaster. And as you've mentioned, Konyang, the disaster, the deceased identified at the Bokpo Hanguk hospital are being transported. So many of the local hospitals here, as well as the funeral hall, are on full standby as they await for extra bodies that have been captured at the Chindo coastal area.
Sebin, the entire nation, of course, is mourning the loss of those who perished. Our condolences go out to the families and friends who've lost loved ones. What about the survivors who have been admitted and are being treated? Korea University Ansan Hospital has the most number of patients from the disaster.
So far, a total of 76 passengers and students are being have been admitted at this hospital, as well as other local hospitals nearby. But at the same time, a steady number of people, outpatients, so to speak, have been going in and out of the emergency room, still getting treatments from the hospital. Now, from the briefing, during a press briefing held earlier this morning, officials from the hospital said they are holding one-on-one consultations with the individual patients and constantly checking on their mental status. Doctors here say that 80% of the inpatients are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and that they're looking at months or even years of treatment to come, especially for those younger students, because they need more time to heal. And at the same time, since Friday night, the hospital officials have asked all media reporters to stay away and to refrain any contacts with the inpatients as they suffer from traumatic stress. And that's all I have for you now, Kanyang.
Right. I think more consideration should be given to those suffering in this time of very distressful time by the local media. Thank you, Semin. We can't even begin to imagine the difficulty and mental anguish the survivors, as well as the relatives of those confirmed dead and missing, are going through, and our hopes and prayers are with them. And new on this Saturday here in Korea, the captain of the ferry is now behind bars, but soon after his arrest, he told reporters that he did in fact order passengers to evacuate the sinking vessel. For more on this, let's go to our Hyun-kyung back at the news center. Hyun-kyung.
Yes, Kanyang, the captain of the ferry and 2 other crew members are in custody now and have been formally charged. Criticism against the 68-year-old Captain Lee Jun-seok is mounting as he was one of the first people to have been rescued. He is under scrutiny for abandoning his passengers. Now, Captain Lee is charged with 5 violations. They include charges of negligence and a violation of a ship crew law, which requires crew to remain on the vessel until all passengers escape. Earlier this morning, the captain told reporters that he did order the passengers to evacuate as the ship was sinking. Take a listen.
퇴선 명령 내리셨어요?
네.
승객들한테도 내리셨어요?
네. 돌릴 때 있었던 게 아니라 그 항로를 지시하고 잠시 침실에 볼일에서 잠시 갔다 온 사이에 그렇게 된 겁니다.
So the captain is basically trying to say that he did fulfill his duty as the captain and that it wasn't his fault that the ship capsized. A 25-year-old third mate was apparently steering the vessel when the ferry sank. She is identified by the surname Park and has also been charged and arrested. Another arrested crew member is a 55-year-old male surnamed Cho. Park and Jo were apparently among the first people to have escaped the sinking ferry.
Right, we cannot but express our outrage over how these crew members and the captain were the first ones, one of the first ones being evacuated off that ship. Now, the investigation team is trying to find out the exact cause of the sinking. Is there a latest on that?
Right, the joint investigation team summoned several other crew members for questioning just about an hour ago on top of the 3, including the captain that we mentioned earlier. A total of 7 additional crew members will be questioned throughout the day. An investigation official reportedly said the team will decide whether any of them neglected their duties and are formally responsible for the sinking. But this just in, the investigation team says that the third mate, with the surname Park, it was actually the first time that she had steered a ferry on this particular sea route where tidal currents are very, very strong. She has worked for the ferry operator for 4 months, but it was the first time. And I will try to bring more on this in our later newscast. Back to you, Kan-young.
Thank you, Hyun-kyung, for that. And the third mate, like our Hyun-kyung said, is a 25-year-old third mate. She had just started working for this company 4 months into this ship wreckage and just 2 years out of college. Now, that's all for me at this hour. Our special coverage on the nation's search and rescue efforts for survivors in Korea's ferry disaster continues. Join me again at the top of next hour.